good morning. Oh, chilly in the workshop this morning. I'm coming for a warm and have a cup of tea. So I thought I'd do a little video, something I've been thinking on over the last couple of weeks. Now, I was a civil servant for 6 years. I was an AO. And occasionally I stood in for the EO. And a couple of times, the first couple of times I didn't get paid. And then after that, when it was organised and it was a holiday, then I got the extra money. And then it was 10 quid a week. Never mind. Doesn't matter. I worked for the civil service. Now, I did sort of on-the-job training. I'm not academic. I'm an engineer. I make things. That's what I do. But I am a countryman. And I shoot and I fish and I hunt. And I'm interested in the law. And when I write for magazines, I have to figure out what the law is. And on my shelf in my office, well, in the filing cabinet now, but in the shelf in my old office, I had 2 Acts of Parliament I worked with, both from 1968. It was the Countryside and Wildlife Act and the Firearms Act. Now, there's been amendments to the Firearms Act over the last 40 years, and I've tried to keep up with it. Being a gunsmith, that's what I do. But I've also been involved in politics. When I was sort of 45, 46, I was involved in a youth club. I became a parish councillor at 21. I was on the management committee for 8 years. So I was dealing with government legislation as a councillor and standing orders and all this sort of thing. I worked with solicitors, and it was the principles of law that they used to talk about. And to be honest, it went straight over my head. But anyway, when I was in the civil service, I got a little bit more interested in our history, because as you know, being that I'm into guns and history, I like to know what type of gun was used at different times in our history. That's why I like the Kings and Queens timeline, because you can fit the guns into those kings and queens. And that also then involves the politics of the day, and you learn the background. Now, we went to take some American friends. I'm in India. We went to Runnymede and took my American friend. And we went to Runnymede, and there's a monument there. And it's from the American Law Association. What did we do at Runnymede? For the Magna Carta of 1215, the Queen planted an oak tree. That's how much this government, or previous governments, thought of our Constitution. Now, what you get into now is, why did the Magna Carta happen? Well, what you had is you had King John in charge. He'd lost a lot of France, and he was taxing the people to go and fight wars. Overtaxing the people? Does that sound familiar? And it was the barons that were fighting him. So they would have been the Privy Council or the Law Lords. And they met at Runnymede and forced King John to sign the Magna Carta. Because it was done under duress, it was said to be illegitimate and void. So when his son took over in 1216, he produced a second Magna Carta of 1216. Now everybody that keeps talking about the Magna Carta talks about 1215, but that's been repealed. But then when you look at old Acts of Parliament that I do, you find that they've got the repeal section at the back, and they're repealing parts of the Magna Carta 1215 in the late 1700s and early 1800s. Now, if it's already been repealed, why are they repealing it again? I could not understand this, and I still haven't got my head around this. Because the Magna Carta of 1216 is a real interesting document. And if anybody gets a chance to read it, just Google Magna Carta 1216 and it'll come up and you can read it. That's our Constitution. Now, how do we get our common law into Acts of Parliament? Well, somebody's postman at the door, I expect. Never mind, I'll be back in a minute. Right, scouts in the village doing the Christmas tree round. They are brilliant. And it helps raise money for the scouts. Brilliant idea. So all your local people, if you've got to send Christmas cards in the village, well, it's a little town really, we've got 20,000 people. You give it to the scouts, pay a small fee, and they'll deliver it for you. Brilliant. Anyway, let's get back to where we were. The Magna Carta signed under duress. Now, the Magna Carta reaffirmed the common law rights. Now, Alfred the Great was supposed to have toured the country and written down the common law. It's where the common law comes from. Now, that was reintroduced by the Magna Carta in 1215, said to be under duress, so we have the Magna Carta of 1216. It was reaffirmed, the Magna Carta, in 1297. Now, in 1354, we had Liberties of the Subject Act, which gave us due process of law, and that's what it says in the Act, due process of law. And there was one of 1405, 1423, I think it was, another one, and they were liberties of the subject. Franchises in cities that were free the franchises couldn't be repealed. That was one of the other things. So towns that charged a rent to get in then were free. Like Bristol was a free port, London was a free port, Liverpool. It's the way that it worked. And they were liberties and franchises given to us, the people, against the tyranny of a government. Now you've got to understand this. This is our principles. And then we had a problem with the king in 1640. A hell of a problem. And Parliament was split. You had the Lords and the Commons, and they were together in what is now Westminster Hall. The king said he had the divine right of kings. And there was philosophers that would debate if a king had the right of a divine right of king, or he was not above the law. And the country split around about 1640. And we had two civil wars, or two parts of the Civil War, with Oliver Cromwell becoming the Lord High Protector of the country. He didn't take the crown, he became the Lord High Protector because of the king, the tyranny of a king. But the Civil War didn't solve the problem of how this country was going to be a democratic government under a king. It wasn't solved. So you had Locke, and there was somebody else, I can't remember his name now, but they argued over whether the king had the divine right of kings and was above the law, and Locke argued that the king was not above the law. James II was in charge, and we're talking now 1680-ish. His daughter, Mary, went to Holland and married the Prince of Orange, but they don't come into the programme yet. What you had was Monmouth, Lord Monmouth. He formed an army in the southwest, in Somerset, and had a battle at Sedgemoor against the Royalists, and that was 1685, and lost. And then James II had what was called the Assizes, and he had a judge called Judge Jeffreys. He was the original hanging judge. And they met in Exeter, and they rounded up what was called the Pitchfork Rebellion. So they rounded up all the rebels and took them to their assizes under the Judge Jeffreys, the hanging judge. Now they told them that if they pleaded guilty, he would be lenient. So the first one stood up and said, "I'm guilty." So he said they were all guilty, and he hung the lot of them. That's why he was called the Cluny Assizes and the hanging judge. And he was also in the Bristol Assizes as well. But I don't know a lot about that. But it's the tyranny of government, and the government using the law against the people. This is what we're talking about. Sounds familiar, does it? Camera's playing up this morning for some reason. Must be the cold. I'm warming up now. I've had my cup of tea. And let's get into this little history. Anyway, we had Monmouth, and we had the problems there. Then the barons decided to invite Mary and her husband, the Prince of Orange, William, over to take the crown because of the tyranny of James II. Protestants were not allowed to have government positions. They were all Catholic. There were Catholic churches. There was Catholic courts, church courts. And it was the tyranny against the people, mainly the Protestants. So, they came over to Brixham, and they marched up to London on what is now the 303. Before they got to London, James II's opted, and it was called the Glorious Revolution, 1688. 1689, we had a Declaration of Rights, and we had the Bill of Rights, the Act of Settlement. Now, the Bill of Rights, the first part said everything that James II had done wrong, the tyranny. People being fined without due process. People going to court and forfeiting property and being fined before they were convicted. That's what he did. That was tyranny. And they readjusted tyranny on the second part of the Bill of Rights. It took the divine right of kings and the power of the kings from him and put it in the hands of Parliament. So from 1689, we have the Lords, the Commons, and the King. And the crown was Mary and William together. They were both joint sovereigns. But they had no power. The power was now in the hands of Parliament. It's where we are today. Our king has no power. He can advise the Prime Minister, and he can advise his Privy Council, and the Privy Council can advise him. But what's happened now, under the tyranny of a Labour government, which is what I want to get to, is that Starmer thinks that he has that divine right of kings that James II thought he had and King John thought he had. He is not above the law. If you can't have a king have the divine right, then you can't have a Prime Minister have the divine right. He is not above the law. And the law is our constitution, our rights and our freedoms and our liberties. Do you understand where we're coming from here? Now, let's talk about the tyranny of this Labour government, which is what this video is about. He is advocating stopping trial by jury. Jury trial will only be for major offences, big fraud cases and murder. That means the tyranny of the government and the corrupt police force can now take people to prison without any comeback, because we, the people, can't have a say on it, the 12 good men and true in a jury. That's what it's done. That's the safeguard that we've got under our constitution that's been taken away. Tyranny number one. The other tyranny is that he's cancelled local elections. He's cancelled local elections because he thinks Labour will lose. He is absolutely paranoid that Reform will win local elections. That is tyranny. That is the tyranny of this Labour government. He has issued, I suppose you'd call it a decree, being that he now thinks he's got the divine right of a king, and the New Year's Honours list that would normally come out on New Year's Eve has been leaked this week, 2 weeks early. Well, standard practice for a Labour government, isn't it? We all knew what was going to happen in the budget 6 months ago. You see how tyranny works? They should tell you what you're going to do before they do it. He's putting 25 life peers into the House of Lords. Oh, my camera keeps going funny. Must be the cold. Anyway, I thought computers were supposed to work better when they were cold, but never mind. We're talking about the tyranny of the Labour government. So Starmer has put 25 extra life peers into the House of Lords to try and control it. Now, this isn't anything new. Life peers started in 1911. There was 2 general elections in 1911. So it was the Labour Party that won. What they did is they produced the Parliament Act, and they could then produce life peers. And they produced a load of life peers to put in the House of Lords to control the government. This is what Starmer's doing. The House of Lords is a reforming oversight committee, if you like. They look at legislation, they look at it line from line. When you sit in the House of Lords and watch them, they argue over a word in a clause in an act. And they argue over the meaning of the wording. Absolutely fascinating to watch. Totally boring to most people, I found it absolutely fascinating. And then they go into committee stages where they argue each line to get the legislation right. Now, if you've got a Labour tyranny of a Labour government in force, like we have with Starmer, and he fills the House of Lords with 24 live peers, we have then got tyranny, because there's no safeguard. Do you see what's happening to this country? You know, they're putting people who have a point of view like me. I had a 4-month police investigation on a Facebook post, a one-line Facebook post. 12,000 people have been arrested for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram posts. This is the tyranny of this Labour government. What governments in the past stopped jury trials, put people in prison without trial? And the names are, everybody knows. Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. And the names everybody knows. Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, Pol Pot. And Starmer is in that club now. He's using the tyranny, the divine right of a king to govern this country. Do you not understand what is going on? There are a few people that do. Tommy Robinson's been put in jail for it. Katie Hopkins. They're after her as well now. This is the tyranny of a government. We have free speech. I've gone on about the Bill of Rights. We have built the right of free speech under Article 9 of the Bill of Rights. And the only court that can question free speech is now, it was the law lords, but they now sit in the Supreme Court. So it's only the Supreme Court who can handle freedom of speech cases. Well, what they've done over the years, and I'm talking Conservative and Labour here, they put in legislation that bypasses or diverts from free speech. They've got the hate crime law. They've also got malicious communications. And they're using those two acts to divert it from freedom of speech. This is the tyranny of government. And it's got to end with Starmer. We've got to go back to our constitution. I don't want a revolution and have a new constitution. We have the rights and liberties in our own constitution already. The American Constitution was built on our Constitution. If you read our Bill of Rights and the American Bill of Rights, they are very similar. The American Bill of Rights has the Second Amendment. Our Bill of Rights said Protestants can have arms for their defence. That's allowed by law. Now, they argue that the law tells us we can't have it now. But you see, and it also says, the Bill of Rights, that you can't be fined or have forfeitures until you've been convicted of an offence. So, technically, the police couldn't give you a caution because you haven't been to court. Because they found you guilty of an offence. That's what, because you admit to an offence and they give you a caution. In my view, that's illegal. Only a court can decide that you're guilty. Yes, minor crimes. You have a magistrate's court. But you have the right to go to trial by court. It's the way our systems work. And they're removing that. So when you add it all up, Starmer is acting like James II and Charles I. We have to stop it. We have to stand up and be counted. The only way I can do this is by telling you how I think. What you can do is, if you agree with me, is like and share this video. The more people that like and share this video and it goes viral, the more chance we've got of fighting the tyranny of this Labour government. And we have to draw a line in the sand. We have to say, hang on a minute, this ain't right. Anyway, this is Ian. This video is going to take me hours to edit. His cameras all went wrong, door open, but never mind. I will try and do my best. I hope it explained it, and my train of thought had been broken a couple of times, but I tried to do my best. Anyway, Ian, Somerset News Network, signing off. Don't forget, if you like it, please like and share. You know, and there's a bell button or something that if I make another one, that you'll see it. Anyway, Ian, bye bye for now.